welcome to Perfecting the Magic. I'm Juliet here, and today we have got Max Ledoux here. I have been super parks curious, cast member curious. I think for years there's always been this weird mystery around what it is like to actually work inside a Disney park. And Max is here to explain to us today, give us all of those like insider secret tips, tell us what it's actually like to work inside a Disney theme park. So, welcome to the channel, Max.
Hi, parks curious is my new favorite phrase. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it quite like that, and now it's I think I'll use it forever. Parks curious
So, give us the introduction, Max. Tell us a little bit about your time working at Disney because you don't work there anymore, right?
anymore. That's true. I'm no longer a Disney cast member. I worked at Disney I was at Walt Disney World in Florida for 8.5 years. I started on the Disney College program, which is an internship that Disney runs domestically. I started that in 2008, and then I stayed employed by Disney from there on out, and ultimately left in January of 2017. So I was there for 8.5 years. I did a lot of different jobs, really kind of all over the place with things that I did for Disney, but all of it was in Florida. I worked at all of the parks there and made my way around.
Okay, so let's start by talking about the Disney College program because
Yeah.
another program, ton of interest, mystique around it. What was your experience like? Because from what I've heard, it's pretty grueling. It's a long hours, right?
Yeah, so when you go to the Disney College program, you there are different, which unfortunately right now is not operating, and hopefully will in the future. It gave so many of my friends their opportunity to start at Disney, and so I really hope it comes back. But it is you go for a variety of different lengths. They have like a normal semester of about 5 months. They'll do an extended semester where you can go for the summer plus a school semester, and you go down with a job. You apply and they assign you a role based on preference and some interviews. And so you go down knowing what your job is going to be. They provide housing for you. Disney has had 4 different housing communities set aside within the Lake Buena Vista area, which is right next to Disney property in Florida. And they have everybody live together. Everyone that's going to be working at the parks or working at the resorts all live in these different, essentially huge apartment complexes. And then you work day to day. They offer classes taught by Disney professionals, which often will go for college credit. And when you're not working, you might take classes. They do like big community events. You all go to the park together. It's one part a ton of work, one part like education, and one part a huge party for about a semester of your life. It's a ton of fun. You're right. I mean, you're the low person on the totem pole, right? So when you're working the holiday season and the Magic Kingdom's open till 3 o'clock in the morning, like it's all interns. Like there is no full-time cast member working until 3 o'clock in the morning. It's all interns all the time. So the monkeys are really running the circus in that instance, but
what
it's a
what
lot of
did you
fun.
do? What did you do as part of the college program? What was your job?
My first gig I ever had at Disney was I was a quick service food and beverage cast member, which is what it sounds like, at the Disney's All Star Music Resort, which is a
Whoa.
yeah. I really started from the bottom. Now we're here. Uh, it's a value resort. It's like the least expensive resort on property. She old, and I served breakfast there. So that's where I got my start. And some people would be surprised that I still fell in love with working at Disney doing that job, but somehow it happened.
I asked you this prior, but I need to know because I heard that you were the man in charge of the Mickey waffle iron.
Yeah.
So, did you ever get sick of the smell of Mickey waffles?
No, man, Mickey waffles are great. I have spent many hours making a Mickey waffle for guests in the morning, and when I would go on my lunch break, I would still eat Mickey waffles. So they are truly a joy. I have a Mickey waffle magnet on my fridge. I'm such a big fan. So I love me some Mickey waffles.
What are the Mickey waffle secrets though, from the inside man who's making them? If we're making them at home, Max, come on, spill
Oh
spill the
gosh, I
goods.
I gotta be honest. I didn't make the batter. I don't know. I just pour it in the fryer, flip it over after a minute and a half or whatever it is. Try to not ooze too much out the sides. It's been a long time since I made one. About 13 years at this point, but they were good. I
Mhm.
enjoyed them.
Okay, so you started out in the college program. You're working at the All Star Resort. So how long did you do that for?
So I was college program that started in August and it went until December. I mean, the full like fall semester, if you
Hmm.
will.
Yeah.
And then I shortly after that transitioned into working in entertainment, which is where almost my entire Disney career is. I mean, I was quick service for 5 months and then entertainment for basically the rest of my Disney career.
Mhm. Okay, so while you were before we move on from the college program though,
Sure. Yeah,
while
yeah,
so
yeah.
you
Got
were
to
working
get those out.
you were working those crazy hours.
Yep.
If there are folks out there who are contemplating if they should do the college program, hopefully when it comes back in like 2022,
Mhm.
would you say great experience, do it, or would you say, oh man, I don't know, not sure those hours, that 3 a.m. shift at the Magic Kingdom?
I say 1,000% do DCP. I will say this. I know it's very different in California just because of the amount of roles that are available. Um, Walt Disney World's so much bigger than the Disneyland Resort, and so it's a very different experience. I can't speak to the college program in California. It might as well be a whole different thing. But if you're thinking about doing the Walt Disney World college program, in the event that it is available again, I think it's one of the best decisions I ever made. I mean, it really did lead to my entire Disney career. Some of my closest friends I've ever had come out of that college program. People bond through negative experiences, and you really get tight. But I will also say, like, even working a quick service restaurant job, fast food basically is another way of saying those words. And waking up. I did breakfast, so my shifts would start at 5 in the morning. I was waking up, you know, at 3:30 to get to work, and then serve breakfast to guests in the morning. A mad rush before they got to the park. Like I completely fell in love with working there. I completely fell in love with being there. It's an amazing experience. I wouldn't have traded it for the world. It's the best.
All right, but what were the dorms like though? Come on.
Oh God, a mess. Uh, they had just made so there were four apartment complexes. One was set aside basically for all international uh, students. So Epcot Center is made up of a bunch of different countries. It famously would feature people from those countries working in the front of house roles, and so they would fly in. They would do international internships and bring people over to like basically work in Epcot. One of the apartments was just for international folks, so I didn't go there, but the other three were for college program. Um, One was brand new when I got there, and that was the one I lived in. So I basically moved into a brand new apartment. That was great. One was like mid tier, kind of like the Goldilocks of like, yeah, if you scratch up the walls, probably nobody's gonna notice, but like also it's not the nicest one of the three. And then one is just a dumpster fire. I mean, it is like the apartment complex, which now I believe has been sold. It's a tragedy. I mean, I'm just heartbroken because it's such a piece of Disney history. The apartment complex was called Vista Way. And there was a time where it was featured in Playboy as like one of the biggest party locations in the country. It
Really?
Yeah, it affectionately is called Vista Way. Um, and there are lots of stories of what is in the hot tub water. So it is that it's a place to go.
That is some real Disney tea for you right there. Just let me
Yeah.
pick my little saucer up.
That's well documented. I mean, and you know what? I don't think it's surprising either, right? You've got a bunch of college age kids that are away from home and they're working these crazy hours all together. Nobody's getting off work. I mean, the parties start at 2 in the morning, right? We're all getting off work at 2 in the morning. So you're all what are you gonna do, right? You don't work until 7 p.m. tomorrow. You don't care when you go to bed. We're all partying. So it was a wild place. It was a lot of fun. Uh, I, it, you know, I wouldn't go in the hot tub at Vista Way, but they've sold it. So, God, such a heartbreaker.
All right, so let's talk about your time in entertainment. So what all exactly did you do for entertainment? What is that? I feel like when I hear some of the cast member terms, like
Yeah.
it's so it's so mysterious to me. Like one woman introduced herself to me. I remember she was like, "I am a leader at Magic Kingdom." I was like, "What
Sure.
are these words? What are these terms?" So explain to me, what does this mean?
Yeah, Disney definitely has its own language. So leader would just mean she's a manager. Disney wouldn't say manager. They would always say I'm a Disney leader. Entertainment is comprised of basically like in three buckets: character shows and parades. So character meet and greets, you go to take a photo, get an autograph from Mickey Mouse. That is part of entertainment. Stage productions or fireworks, anything where you're standing and watching something kind of happen in front of you that's not a ride. That is entertainment, whether that is the Main Street Band or it's an actual stage production or it's the fireworks at the end of the night. All of that is entertainment. And then parades. So floats going by on the street. I did a lot of roles in entertainment. I started as a character attendant here in Disneyland. I believe they call them hosts. And that is that if you go to meet Mickey Mouse, regardless of what park you're in, there's very likely somebody that comes out with Mickey Mouse and like organizes the line and lets you know, hey, open up your autograph books. This is how long Mickey's going to be here, kind of preps the experience and facilitates the experience. I did that. That was my starting role in entertainment. I became a coordinator, which basically I would have 3 to 4 of those locations. I drove parade floats for the Main Street Electrical Parade. I I worked on a couple of shows like Candlelight Processional, which is very different in Walt Disney World than it is here in Disneyland. I was in a group called Disney Performing Arts, where we hosted high school marching bands, jazz bands, choirs, dance groups that all would come and get to perform at Disney as like a spring trip, if you will. And so I was uh, again, the kind of facilitator of that experience, their face of Disney when they got there, get them where they needed to be there for the performance. And then the last 3 years that I was there, I was a leader. So I started as an entertainment leader, managing. I was at Disney's Hollywood Studios, kind of looking after whatever would happen with the character meet and greets there. I did some parade management there when we had the Frozen parade for a brief time. I was a scheduling manager, so my team managed all of the schedules for all of the entertainment cast members. Um, so yeah, gosh, it's been just all over the place.
All right, we got to start from the beginning here because
Yeah,
okay, so character attendant.
yeah, yeah,
My
yeah.
theory has always been that those people were there to make sure that like the characters didn't like fall over or get attacked by a guest. Now, is this true? True or false?
I mean, Mickey is very self-sufficient, right? He's been doing this for a long time. He's good to go. And that I'm not speaking out of turn. Like I'm being very legitimate when I say Mickey Mouse can handle himself. All
Mickey.
right.
Oh, what about Goofy
Um,
though?
Goofy can also handle himself. Um, what I do think is important is that as anybody that's been to these character meet and greets knows, like there is an expectation. I think when people show up, they see Mickey Mouse, they get very excited, right? And if Mickey has already been out there for 45 minutes, they need somebody to just kind of educate them on what's happening. Like, hey, Mickey's about to leave, and hopefully not, have them get their hopes up. And Mickey should never be the person that disappoints someone, right? I would never want Mickey to be the person to have to be like, nope, sorry, I gotta go, right? Like, Mickey wouldn't do that. But I can do that. Like Max, can say, "Hey, sorry, Mickey's got to leave," and Mickey will wave, and then he'll bail. But Mickey should never be the one to do that. Definitely, I will say I've looked out for a character's safety before. That's unfortunately people do some dumb stuff. Um, some of that is just because they're very excited. They don't know how to channel that, and they need help. Some of that is also like kids not being sure how to react. It helps to have somebody kind of as the bridge that knows how these things go. You learn how to like manage kids through these interactions, and so I could coach essentially children through like their first character meeting, which you just learn over time. So some of it is definitely looking out for the safety of characters. Most of it, I think, is just giving voice and helping facilitate it.
So what I'm basically gathering is that you're just like Mickey's fall guy, basically.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real.
Mhm.
Disney characters should never be the one to disappoint people, right? Like, there is a reality that is that they're only going to be out for 30, 45 minutes at a time, sometimes 20 minutes at a time. And for the safety of everyone involved, like they need to go after that, especially in a Florida summer. um but that shouldn't be Mickey's responsibility to have to turn to that next kid and be like, sorry pal, deuces, like I can be that person.
All right.
So yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any stories you could share with us about maybe some like particularly crazy moment that happened from your character handling days?
Oh man, a crazy moment.
Just one that stands out, something unexpected happened, maybe. Or maybe Goofy takes a tumble, Pluto hits the deck, I don't know. Like
Goofy takes a tumble. Let me see if anything comes to mind. Mm, hmm. Let me think about it a little bit as we continue talking, and if I get one, I'll come back to you.
Okay.
I've got a lot I can't share. Like, there's so many
Come
that I
on,
just
Max.
can't tell you.
Ah, okay.
I'll
We'll give you
spill the tea, but
we'll give you a free pass on that one. We'll give you a free pass on that one. All right. So next up, we gotta dig into this driving a freaking parade float.
I'll
What
tell you all you want about that. That's a lot
do
of fun.
what is
Yeah.
that like?
Yeah, mostly like driving either an electric car or a lawnmower. Um, I drove, so I drove the Main Street Electrical Parade, and mostly what that means is I drove the. If you watch MSCP, um, between most of the floats I drove were what we call the bugs. So if you're watching when you're talking about parades, typically you talk about parades in what we call units. And what a unit is a grouping of thematically cohesive floats, right? So if I say the Alice unit of the Main Street Electrical Parade, for anyone that's familiar with that parade, they know that that means that there are three kind of larger floats that have big mushrooms on them. Alice is on one of them. She sits atop it and she talks to the guests. The caterpillar is on one. The Cheshire Cat's on the back of one. And between those floats, there are these bugs. There are snails. There's a caterpillar or a centipede. There are turtles. There are
I
fireflies.
am shaking my head over here because this parade, I'm gonna offend some people here, but it's fine. I have some real serious issues with this drug trip fueled weird insanity that is the
Boy, that is
70s
not a
brainchild.
popular. That is not a popular
Listen
opinion.
to you describing this.
Main Street
Listen,
Electrical Parade's been around for a long, 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 long
this is
time.
a
So,
weird parade experience. All right, so you're driving yours.
I mean, listen, I'm not here to necessarily disagree with you. I think that parade is old, and it feels old. You see stuff like Paint the Night, and you're like, okay, what are we still doing watching MSCP, right? It's people's childhood. Unfortunately, I hear that song in my nightmares because when you sit in those floats. Here's the first thing I'll tell you: most of my time was driving those bugs. I have driven the pirate ship that's in the Peter Pan unit. I've driven the clock tower that's in the Peter Pan unit, but most of my time was driving the bugs. And when you sit in those floats, you sit directly in front of the speaker that plays the famous MSEP song. So I hear it literally in my dreams, even 8 years later. But those bugs, I'll just tell you how they work. They're basically like a lawnmower, those little guys. So there are some lawnmowers that drive by having two rods that are in front of you, and each one essentially controls one of the wheels, right? So if you push the right one forward, the right wheel moves, and if you push both of them forward, they both move forward. But you can also push them in different directions and it'll spin, right? So those floats work exactly the same way. I've got two rods essentially between my legs. And if I want to go forward, I shove them both forward. If I want to go backward, I pull them both back. If I want to spin, I go in opposite directions and she'll spin. So that's how they work. They're real small. You're cramped inside a little like turtle sized light up float for 27 minutes, which is how long you're on route. But they're fun. You can spin. There is another little fun fact is that there is a limit on how many times you're allowed to spin.
No.
Yep,
What?
that's true.
Why?
Well, because see, before MSEP came back to Walt Disney World, it was at Walt Disney World, it left, and then Walt Disney World got a parade by the name of Spectro Magic. Spectro Magic was the parade when I got there. And Spectro had floats very similar to these. They drove the same way, but they were just these big light up balls. And they had people sitting on top of them called Spectro Men. That was the name of the character. And so there would be a driver inside driving the float, and then there'd be a Spectrum Man on top, like, whatever, waving and being a Spectrum Man. And there was no limit on the amount of times that person could spin that float. And then a couple Spectrum Men got sick because there was too much spinning. And then there was a limit. If there's a rule, there's always a reason.
So someone spun themselves so many times that in this tiny cramped little
Well,
vehicle,
the
I'm guessing.
driver spun themselves so many times, and the Spectrum Man got sick, right? And let me tell you, those screens that got lights on them, they porous. So I'm just going to tell you that the driver paid the piper on that one because, things will rain down, but there is now a limit on how many times you can spin a circle. It's 3. So you can only spin 3 full rotations, and then you gotta keep going. But
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. Good to know. Now, have you ever had any experiences? Because I'm always wondering. I'm like, gosh, those things seems like hard to see in,
oh, they're impossible.
right? And so, was there ever a time where you felt like you were maybe not in full control of what was happening?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is the parade audience control or pack does a great job of like clearing the route, right? Um, so I don't know that I ever felt like I was in danger, but I've definitely felt like I'm not really sure. I think the hardest is, you're driving at night, and actually, if there is a crowd, it's very easy to see. Um, I think I remember the hardest being there were a couple times where I drove parade at night, and when I got to Frontierland, which is the back half of parade route in Walt Disney World, I'm now realizing Disneyland you don't even go through Frontierland. In Walt Disney World, it would step off. Main Street Electrical Parade would step off in Town Square. It would go up through Castle Hub. It would go across the Liberty Square Bridge and then go through Frontierland and exit by Splash Mountain. And I would get to Frontierland to be mostly empty. It was the second parade of the night. The park was not high attendance. And so Frontierland would be pretty empty. And all that there is to mark the sides of the route would be like a white rope and like a thin white like nylon rope. And when there are people there, it's super easy to see. Your parade's giving off light, they've got light up stuff or they're taking photos, super easy. But when all that's there is a little white rope, I definitely was like, I don't actually know where the edge of route is. Like I could run into the white rope. I would have no idea. Like I might just take out stanchions. So then I had to be very careful, like stay in my lane. But
Perfect.
it's
Perfect.
easier when there's a crowd. I'll say that.
So, what about the your time at Hollywood Studios? So, you said you were managing a couple of the parades there as well. What was that like?
Yeah, so I started my first gig as a leader. This is about 5 years into my career. My first gig as a leader was we did an event called Star Wars Weekends at Disney's Hollywood Studios. It was um, in the summer, like May, June, and there was a ton of Star Wars activations throughout the park, and so they needed to bring on.
Wait, sorry. Star
Excuse me.
Wars activations.
Yeah. So there would be character meet and greets. So you could meet Chewbacca, Ewok, Stormtroopers, Darth Vader, which now is very normal in the parks because of Galaxy's Edge being open. But at the time, it was not normal. And there would be a parade with all the Star Wars characters. This was only on the weekends. There would be stage shows. They also would bring in actors and actresses from the Star Wars films, and they would do shows and they would do signings. It was like a huge Star Wars celebration. If you're familiar with Star Wars Celebration, actually, it was basically every weekend in the summer, there would be a mini Star Wars celebration with different people that had been in Star Wars. And so because of that, they needed more entertainment managers because there was just so much more happening in the park. So I got brought in for the summer, and I managed first starting just character um, meet and greets across the park. So whatever was happening, if anything would go wrong, you're basically a firefighter. Like whatever goes wrong, you have to run and like
Max,
deal with it.
what goes wrong though?
Oh gosh, people say silly things or cast members get injured sometimes, unfortunately. I mean, that is a way of life, but it could just be like, I guess, ice cream falls on the ground. You know what I mean? Like it could be something really mundane, but
You get called
I'm
when ice
there.
cream falls on the ground?
If it happens in my area, it can happen, you know? Like I'm just saying, like, sometimes it can be a really big deal, right? And sometimes it can be really small things. So whatever happens, I'm just there to assist, while also being a manager for entertainment cast. And then that happened to be the year, that was the summer that Frozen released. And so that changed everything. The world changed the year Frozen released. And so the Star Wars event actually then continued into a Frozen event, and they put together a Frozen parade, just to kind of capitalize on this hype. And so I was able to be a parade manager for that parade on a few occasions. And there are calls basically of when to send the floats and when to bring people off of the show, and you're there making sure that all the performers are fine throughout it, that people are staying off the route, that everything's going well, that just from step off to step down, you're good to go.
So you were basically Elsa's boss.
Well, I guess so. It's funny. I actually ended my career that way too. My final gig before I left was that I was a character manager at Epcot, and they had a Frozen character meet and greet. So I suppose the last thing I ever did was be Elsa's boss.
Mhm. Uh, well, so it sounds like running the parades. That's pretty cool. So you literally got to tell the floats like go now, and then
Mhm.
how did that all work? Is there just a specific timing or?
Yeah, a parade is it is a science. I mean, Disney's got it down. Like I don't think anybody does a parade better than Disney. I know Magic Kingdom the best just because I spent the most time there. But I mean, I can tell you that everything is very scientific at Magic Kingdom. When I said it's 27 minutes, that is the time of parade route at Magic Kingdom. When the first parade float hits the gate in Town Square or in Splash Mountain, it's the same either way. It is 27 minutes until they will step down. And for every float that comes after, it'll be 27 minutes from the moment they hit the gate till they hit the next gate. And that is measured by literal wheel rotations of the floats. Like we know how many rotations of the tires it will take to get down the route, and
Seriously?
100%. And then when those tires hit different sections, it cues the audio in different zones to make sure that the audio is synced with where the parade floats are. It is literally a science how Disney parades work. It's pretty unbelievable.
That's pretty magical. All right,
Yeah,
I gotta ask this because we've all peeked in from the sidelines and we've seen the entryway to the backstage. You got to tell me about the
sure.
backstage. What is the backstage like, Max?
Oh, I mean, gosh, what do you want to know? Magic Kingdom famously has a tunnel system which is called the utilidor, which goes under the whole park. Um, it's such an amazing story. When Disneyland is built, it always drove Walt crazy that he would see cast members dressed in like um, cowpoke outfits, from Frontierland, walking through Tomorrowland because they didn't have a choice. That was the only way to go. And so when they built Walt Disney World, he wanted something to fix it. He wanted people to never be seen out of their theming, that you would never see anything like that. And so they dug out the Seven Seas Lagoon, um, in the area that Magic Kingdom would be. They dug out this huge man-made lagoon, and they took all the dirt that they dug out and they built Magic Kingdom to be a story up, from sea level. They literally, when you walk into the Magic Kingdom, you go up a ramp and you are going, above because you're climbing what is the utilidor. And so there's a whole tunnel network that's under the Magic Kingdom, so that you can get from one land to another without ever walking in guest view. Um, there's another tunnel system, much smaller, in Epcot to allow for similar travel. Um, Hollywood Studios doesn't have that because the idea at Hollywood Studios was that it was a working studio. And so it was okay if you saw kind of the how it was made, and it was themed a little bit differently and people would move to and from, and they still maintain the same, like, we don't want you to see certain things, but other things are okay in Hollywood Studios because it's a different environment. But yeah, it's a really cool thing. I'm happy to answer anything specifically
I mean, does it feel magical backstage, or does it just feel like a place you work?
though. It's a different kind of magic. I think it's definitely not the same. We are, at the end of the day, for the 70,000 people that make Walt Disney World run, and that I hope will in the future. Um, it is our day-to-day job. We show up, we work, but I think that it's a totally different kind of magic. You walk into the break rooms at Magic Kingdom, and or at Epcot or at Hollywood Studios or at Animal Kingdom, and what you find is usually there's some place where people have collected amazing letters they've gotten from guests, or keepsakes that have been brought to characters. I mean, I remember in one of the break rooms there was, I don't think I'll ever forget this. There was a Ziploc baggie that was tacked to a big, like, billboard, and inside were two pacifiers that had been brought to Drizella and Anastasia. And that was the way these children stopped using their pacifiers, was that they
Oh,
agreed to give them to the stepsisters from Cinderella. And so they were brought to Anastasia and Drizella, and here they are in this break room, like, forever. They're there. And so I think that it's such a celebration of, like, yes, it's a job, but also I think there's a real appreciation of what everybody gets to do, and you'll just see that, um, by evidence of different things, pictures, and things that they've been brought, and just, yeah, it's pretty amazing, but very different.
okay. So it kind of, what I'm getting is it's cool, but really the backstages we're not getting. It doesn't feel like we're straight inside of maybe some of our favorite immersive
Oh, heck
experiences.
no. It's a broom closet in many ways. You know what I mean? Like, I have definitely taken a break in a broom closet before. There's nothing fancy about Backstage Disney. It's four beige walls in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
But you come together over that. But no, 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 no. If the question is like, wow, is it as amazing as on stage? Absolutely not. It is, where the money is, you know what I mean? Like, the money is in guest view. And then back here we got walls, and there's sometimes doors, and even a microwave. It's
Yeah.
a totally different world. Yeah.
So there's some Disney rules that I've heard about. Like I've heard of rules about, personal appearance and then maybe like the two
Oh,
finger
sure.
point. Are there any cast member rules that we might not know about that you can share with us?
Oh, interesting question. Um, yeah, the Disney look is pretty extensive. I mean, that it changes over time, but very extensive. I mean, it's literally, excuse me, a book you get on the day you're hired, that is the Disney lookbook, and it's like every guideline. Um, Gosh, cast member rules. I guess, like, you can't curse, like, period. It's not like an onstage backstage thing. Like, you can be reprimanded or ultimately terminated if for cursing backstage. Um, That's I mean, there's not anything I don't think there's anything weird, honestly. Like, there's a lot of weird, like, guest stuff, like, yeah, the two-finger point, like, a little strange. There's some stuff that, like, what you're allowed to wear. I think costume rules are weird just in general, like, you got to wear this color sock. It has to come above the bone on your ankle. You can't, like, very specific stuff. Um but I don't think there's anything outside of that stuff that people know about that's, like, particularly strange. But maybe I'm just brainwashed.
Could be. All right. Well, I have to ask because my last question here before we jump into our quick fire round.
Oh, okay.
Uh, any like favorite memories or favorite stories to share?
Oh man, I have so many. I'll try to give, like, some really quick ones. Um working on Candlelight Processional, which is a holiday show. Gave me some of the closest friends I had at Disney. It's just such an amazing moment to get to welcome high schoolers that come to perform on this stage show and hear this beautiful music day after day, and get to see the behind the scenes and how it all works while having a ton of fun with friends. And um, we I'll give you another like peek behind the scenes. If anybody ever watches Candlelight Processional in Walt Disney World, what you might notice is that the between the songs, when the celebrity narrator is reading the story, we black the stage out, and so you can't, like, all of the choirs are in darkness. And we would have several people working on the show while it was going on, and two of us were on either side of the stage in the wings, and our role was that if anybody in those choirs got sick, sat down, like wasn't looking well or whatever, like we would have to go and check on them. And so during the blackout, we would be dressed like them in the golden robe. And we'd have to race out on stage, go into the choir, find the kid that wasn't feeling well, be like, "Are you okay?" And if they weren't okay, we'd pull them off. But the rule was that if the lights came up and you were still on stage, you had to stay. You couldn't leave in the middle. So you got stuck, and then you just have to stand there and sing as if you were a member of this high school choir, probably taller than all of them, and just standing there like sing and shout to the Lord. And then once the lights went out, you could leave, but you never wanted to get stuck. I worked on this show for 2 years. I never got stuck. My friends got stuck. I was too fast. Um, yeah, that was an amazing moment. I have lots of character moments. I got the chance to work on the opening of the Festival Fantasy Parade, which was the new afternoon parade at Magic Kingdom, and I got to do 6 weeks of overnights as we did all the rehearsals and all the safety sign-offs and all of the, like, getting the floats out, and I got to work on that and ultimately open it, and seeing it open on opening day and sitting there watching this parade that we've just seen like go through the ringer for the last 3 months was really incredible. Um, there are lots of awesome memories.
Those are some great ones, man. I would love now to play the game to spot if the cast member is there in the candlelight processional. That would be that's a fun new
It's a
game.
great game. Once you've seen the show, watch. If you've never seen Candlelight, go watch Candlelight. It's one of my favorite things that happens at Disney. But once you've seen it, if you watch it again, every time the crowd blacks out, like look both sides. It doesn't happen every song. There were some shows. I will just tell you, like the hotter the night, the more likely it is. Because like it just
Go on
it's
those hot evenings.
it's really hot under those stage lights. I mean, there's hundreds of lights on the stage, and regardless of what you tell kids, they're gonna lock their knees. They're gonna, they probably didn't eat today because they're a teenager and they made bad decisions. And so just watch the sides, and if you see somebody coming on, you know what's happening.
Oh, I love it. That was a great one. All right, Max, we're going to play one of the games that I love to do with my guests right before we close. So this is going to be a quick fire round.
I'm
I've got a
ready.
couple questions for you. The goal here, don't think, you just got to answer. I've got a mix for you of just Gennaro personal Disney questions and then also one or two Disney cast member secret type questions.
Oh, great. Don't think. You're setting me up, Juliet. I
No,
know
no,
what's
no.
happening.
It's good. It's good. Okay,
Okay.
ready?
Okay.
All
Yep.
right. Favorite Disney movie?
The Lion King.
Best Disney snack?
Mickey Premium Bar. The ice cream bar.
Favorite attraction?
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Favorite Disney princess?
Ooh. Rapunzel.
Best Disney park to work at?
Now I'm thinking. I'm going to say Magic Kingdom.
Gotta go faster, Max.
Yeah.
Coolest cast member costume?
Ooh, good question. Galaxy's Edge.
Worst cast member costume?
Dino Land. Dino Land and Animal Kingdom.
Oh, Dino Land, the sad forgotten land.
A very good friend of mine wore that costume for a long time. So, dinosaur pajamas with big paw prints on your butt or something. That's a
Oh.
decision.
Max, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a blast chatting with you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I also want to take a moment just to send some love to all the cast members, knowing this has been a
Mm.
really tough year for Disney cast members, and you all are what make the magic happen inside the park. And so we would be remiss to not send a big thank you to all the cast members, past and present, in this moment. So thank you. All right. Well, I am Juliet signing off for now. If you love this interview and you want to hear more cool interviews with not just Disney cast members, but other folks inside the community, I encourage you to go ahead and hit that subscribe to channel button right down below. And of course, you can always visit us over at the website perfectingthemagic.com. And we'll see you right inside those Disney parks too.